like a good bump anywhere. Bump and grind. Wherever, whatever you got.
A little bump anywhere. A little bump in the night, a little bump and grind. I feel like that's like an old R&B song. Like,
Oh, yeah.
not the I dip, you dip, we dip. That's a little bit more fun. This one's like a little bump and grind.
I don't feel like. Oh wait, no, there ain't nothing wrong with a little bump and grind. That's a line from something.
Could be it. Do I have my computer's not plugged into the charger, but I think that's okay. I think let me just check my audio sources.
Is there a charger cord you need? Do you need to go fishing for it?
No, let's not. We're not gonna worry about it. Battery is full. It's not gonna die between now and then. If it starts to, then I'll panic later in the episode.
Yes, let's do that.
Let me just check the audio settings on here to make sure we're not missing anything. No, I think we're good. Let's do it.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
As if I actually know how to play the drums.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it was
air drums.
very-
We can jam on some air
very on
drums.
point. Just
I'm the least musically inclined person in the history of the world. Just getting that out.
yeah, I can appreciate the music, but I certainly can't play any.
I know how to listen to it.
I can sing in the shower. I can carry a tune there.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I like
Both
to
of
do.
my kids have told me from a very young age I am the worst singer.
baritone.
Just shit tone.
I'll just go real deep. Like
Please
I could
stop.
do some Johnny Cash, you know.
There you go.
Like a real
Ring of
low.
Fire.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Anyway, this is the Okayest Hunter podcast. We're in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, for those that don't know. We are presented by Nosler Ammunition, Nosler Inc. since 1948 out of Oregon, Bend, Oregon.
We'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about that for sure.
If you haven't been following along with them or us or anybody else that works with them, which is quite the lineup, we're happy to be among any of those ranks. They got some good, like Montana Knife Company was sharing the same box that we got. And I was like, wow, we're connected to some pretty cool people.
Yeah, you got a very premium hat there. That was that one is very limited quantity.
Well, yours looks really cool. And I saw it in some photos and I was like, wow, what hat is that?
Yeah.
So we're just
We got to
jealous of
talk
each
about
other's hats.
sourcing because this thing is
Is
so
that
sweet.
corduroy? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's all corduroy.
Wow.
It's
That's like very authentic.
I got to pick this one out.
Very awesome. So
Thanks, John.
they launched their Whitetail Country cartridge or Whitetail cartridge a week ago, and I didn't have a podcast last week. It was my wedding anniversary.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, 8 years. And then yesterday was my wife's birthday, so there's been a lot going on. But I did an episode at a movie theater for an event. And talked to a business guy that I knew from the business world, Andy Wines. He's a serial entrepreneur. And I was like, normally I have bourbon. I'm in the basement.
You had popcorn and a
This is
Pepsi or
very
what?
different. So, if that was your first episode of listening to Okayest Hunter podcast, I think it was a fine episode. It's just not normal. So it's good to be back in studio. Derek's here. Greg isn't in. It was obviously a lot for you guys to have just traveled. You got back yesterday in the evening, and now I've asked you to come into the studio after being gone from your family for a whole week. So thank you.
We
Derek.
made her work. I think I kind of owe you after you got to send Greg and I. Greg and I got to go out on this trip.
We owe.
So
we
thank
owe
you very
Lindon.
much. Oh, we all owe Lindon, and
Yeah.
I will forever owe
If you haven't
Lindon and
read
his family.
The Hunter's Hellspan by Lyndon Lauren, I haven't read it, so I can't even say. I know about the book, and I think Greg did read it.
Greg did, yeah, for sure. I read part of it.
The
I did
concept
not
is,
finish.
if you love hunting so much, you should, and you want to do it for a long time, then you have to take care of this vessel that allows you to go on such hunts. So drinking bourbon on a Tuesday night, it might prohibit my ability to do that in the long run. But there's also a quality of life thing there. But Lyndon, you said, I heard from Keegan, he is an absolute machine. And then I just heard from you that you guys were just weights around his legs.
Yeah,
basically
so-
holding back. So he's a machine.
You know how like they have their accreditations like to show their credibility when you write a book, right? Because you're just like taking their word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to do the accreditation process on Lindon over the past few days, and everything that he does with his regimen of health and what he eats and his workout process. He does everything to make hunting easier, and holy shit, did it show. He is an absolute machine in the mountains. The guy can hike for days and just cruise. He's a beast. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know him and his family and watching him just walk up and down the mountains like he's on an escalator while Greg and I are dying somewhere in the back in the bottom of the valley.
I told Keegan, he's like, is there any type of like, because so Keegan, wildlife photog media, was out filming and photographing and doing wildlife photog media stuff, as well as we're going to get into like,
we'll get into the whole story tonight. That's I think what we're talking about.
But I was like, he's like, is there anything you think you need for, because this is our first attempt at a short film, so that'll come later this year. And he's like, is there anything you think you need, angles, shots, things I need to be considering? I was like, well, if you could get like a GoPro on one of their barrels as they're walking up the hill to just show how they're so exacerbated, like typical Midwesterners going out west with their dad beer camp pods.
We got a compliment from the Oreganders there, the guys who are accustomed to that. And they didn't say that we were incredibly fit, but they said, boy, you guys sure don't complain much. So that was a compliment we took with Grace, because we didn't do well. We breathe hard. We sweat a lot. There's a photo that Keegan's got of Greg and I damn near naked standing on a mountain because we're so freaking hot from hiking. And Lindon and his buddy are like, why are you guys taking your clothes off? Because we're dying.
We got to air this thing out.
But that we were told that we complain a lot less than they expected for Flatlanders. So
that's good. Well, if we would have been challenged for a drinking contest, we would have won that, I'm sure, too.
Oh, yeah. That would not even close.
But when I went to Oregon,
I don't know if that's something to hang your hat on or not, but we will gladly hang our hat on it.
I remember going, when I was in Oregon, I was a young lad. I shared some photos with Keegan and me jumping into Crater Lake, and we went to Smith Rock. We, we're at Mount Hood. We did the Rose Gardens, the lava fields, the hot springs. We did Cannon Beach, and traveled the whole entire state. Whitewater rafted the Rogue River. It was a really fun trip for someone young, and
sounds amazing.
It was beautiful too. But I remember we were at some spot in Mount Hood drinking some local Oregon beers, and I think we had like me and my cousin from Wisconsin and my other cousin who's from Wisconsin but then lived in Oregon at the time, and her boyfriend was from Oregon. We had like 2 beers we're just casually talking. He just was like, "Do you guys already have 2 beers? I haven't even finished I'm not even a quarter way down." Wow, you people from Wisconsin really do drink. Well, we weren't trying to. It was just a natural progress. I was like, oh, I'm not trying to like chug beer, but I guess we're just like drinking with a purpose here,
I'm not saying this as like a moment of pride, but I think if that person had spoke and spread the word about the Wisconsinites, and their ability and desire to consume alcohol, I think we probably furthered that, because I think every night on the way home, Keegan and I were in a Suburban, and he'd be like, should we? And I was like, yep, stop for some beer. Yep. So we bring a case of beer, and poor Lindon's like, oh, you guys are having beers again? And we're like, yeah.
Again?
You're having beers again. Helps with the recovery.
Well, I read that in Men's Health magazine a long time ago. Beer after a run is actually gets your carbonation, your protein. Pork chop in a can's a pretty real thing.
There's some marathons that serve you a beer when you're done.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Not promoting, like the whole reason we went to Oregon was not to drink beer. It just happened at the end of the day. Okay. So like that's not the main goal. We did other things.
How good did it taste at the end of that day?
Pretty damn good. It was long days and short nights. I would say 6 hours of sleep was definitely the most that we got. And I mean, the first day we pushed it pretty hard. We really did. And we'll get into that. But like it wasn't crazy, like extraneous. We weren't just hiking up and down every day. We did a lot of glassing and whatnot. But they're long days. They wear you out, and having a good night's sleep to recover the old flatland legs would have been nice. But yeah, we made the most of it, and we really pushed it and got every moment we could out of the whole trip. So it was pretty awesome.
So I don't know much other than you guys both filled tags.
We did.
But the way it started, and you can back up previous this point, at this point, or whatever, but all I know is you guys made it there. Keegan was en route. I think he met you guys or picked you up or something. And all I had seen when I called was you FaceTiming, showing Greg fixing his brakes.
In the parking lot of some little rinky-dink auto parts store, yeah. So,
So that sounds like good. Looks like it's off to the start I would expect.
the okayest.
This is it. This is exactly how it's supposed to
par
go.
for the course. We
Perfect.
weren't even the ones. Greg was to the rescue. So the okayest hunters to the rescue. I mean, I was just in a managerial role, supervising role, just watching and saying, "Good job, Greg."
And you
Greg
guys toured the Nosler plant a
Yeah.
day after they launched a new cartridge,
which was pretty cool. So we flew into Portland, and Lindon was there, picked us up, drove us about an hour south of Portland is where Lindon lives. So we went to his house. They just moved in. His in-laws bought the lot next door,
oh, wow.
and they're going to build next to him, which is pretty cool. But right now they're living in a camper, so they share the bathroom and the house and whatnot. But we got in late, so his wife and kids were sleeping. It was basically like, about midnight. So it's like, let's get some sleep. We're leaving in the morning. Greg and I got some air mattresses in the living room. Good night's sleep. Woke up in the morning. Made the drive over to Bend, Oregon, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. Valley town on the other side of the mountains.
So where were you, what town were you
He's in Albany.
Albany.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And as the story goes on, we're going to leave out less and less. We're going to leave out town names, just so you know.
Oh yeah, that's
we're not going to be too oddly specific.
Yeah.
Okay. But
we have such a wide listener base that
yeah,
we don't want to hunting public this shit.
No, we have. You never know. So we promised we'd help keep the promised land the promised land. So we went to Bend in the morning, which is where Nosler's HQ is, and after Googling it, we realized there's multiple Nosler buildings. We're like, Jesus, which one are we supposed to go to?
Oh no!
So
that's probably my fault.
We got in touch with Zach, and we were headed to the right one.
Zach or John?
Zach.
Okay. There's a John Nason.
John, yeah, he was with Zach.
Okay, got it.
But I think Zach was the dude that Maddie had said he's going to give you the tour. So Zach was the guy for the tour. So anyway, we pull up Nosler, walk in, and they were just, from the first moment we walked in, they were so friendly, so nice, so excited to see us. Guy comes out of the back manufacturing line. He's like, "Are they here?" And he had the okayest hunter hat. He's like, "Oh, I've been really excited to meet you guys." And like, we took a photo together, and we're like, "Holy crap, these people actually like the things that we're doing. This is weird."
We mess up every single call out, but okay, good.
Yeah, it was really cool. We got to see their little, they got like a showroom. So they got a bunch of mounts, all their cool guns they got, the ammo and whatnot. John Nason came out, and he's like, "You guys are probably hungry. We'll go get you some breakfast. There's this cool burrito spot down. They have the best breakfast burritos. We'll go get you breakfast, get you coffee, whatever you want. Zach will take you on the tour. We'll meet you in like 30 minutes. Awesome. So we go take a walk, and they start showing us stuff. We have breakfast burritos with John and some of the team, and just super down to earth, awesome people who happen to make
surprise and delight. And surprise and delight always wins. One of my favorite things to do in a business.
I mean, John knows the game. Like, he's very, very good at his job, and he did an awesome job of making us feel welcomed at that place. And then we went through the tour, and we got to see, like, when you walk into the store and you pick up a box of bullets, like, this is just what you get. But we got to see everything that goes into making every single part of every single Nosler bullet, and that was just crazy. I mean, there was two old ladies. I don't remember their names, but they literally sit there and they have this belt with this metal piece that moves every bullet to the same exact angle, and it goes under this super bright light, and they look at every single bullet that goes through that's ever manufactured in Nosler facility, and they look for cosmetic blemishes. So this is after they've been laser measured, laser weighed, all this stuff. These women, and I'm like, well, how many can they actually pick out? And I look, there's a crate just filled with bullets. He's like, "Yeah, pick one up." You pick it up. Oh, there's like a little scratch right there. Oh, there's like a smudge on the brass. And these women are just picking out these bullets, and this is what they do. They've been doing that forever.
Like, I wonder if those are the ones that they're sending us.
No, those don't ever leave. They don't ever leave.
They're not even allowed to.
No, they don't ever leave.
Kidding.
But just seeing the quality control elements of it is just freaking incredible. All the different lines, a bunch of the machines they're using, the presses for like the tool and die, were from World War II.
Wow.
So they've like completely recalibrated, refurbished them, and like they were used during the ammunition stockpiling for World War II. They've taken these old machines and they're using those with obviously all new tool and die and some totally modern measuring processes to make sure everything is perfect. And then we even got to go down. They have like a range, a completely automated range with like mounted barrels that every lot of bullets has like 5 bullets tested out of the lot, and they measure velocity at every point down the range with all these lasers. they measure everything. And if one of the bullets of that
Mhm.
doesn't meet, then they test more. And if another one doesn't meet, that whole lot is gone, and they redo them.
What can you
It's
do? You remember
just wild.
what? So I was the Whitetail Country an emphasis of the tour.
Yeah, so there was a whole section of. I mean, they're producing, pistol bullets. They're producing tons of different calibers of rifle bullets, and then they had a series of the machines that were producing different ones for the Whitetail Country line, and they showed us all the differences between what's with Whitetail Country, to make it a more affordable bullet for us Midwestern fellows who like to maybe shoot a bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe one shot is not the ultimate goal. Maybe we're doing some deer drives and
when
letting
you're
go of
brown
a
down
whole
public
clip.
land, you got to make sure like this deer ain't seen the next hunter. I'm gonna claim it by the number of bullets I put in this deer.
Yeah, so
no, I got 2 bullets in it. You only got 1, therefore it's mine.
whoever's got the most bullets
talking
wins.
about, buddy? Get out of here.
Yeah, but
it's my buck.
It was overall, it was really incredible. And then they strongly urged us to go to the second facility, which is
And
where
they did because they bought you breakfast. So you're like, well, we kind of have to now. There's reciprocity.
Well, and we were all super interested at that
Yeah.
point. We're like, this is actually super cool because, like, you know me, like
I
like the
I felt
hunt.
bad
I'm
'cause
impatient.
I'm like, hey, you guys are like going there to hunt, and you're like, then we have this. Eric's telling us to go look at, go to the Nosler plant 5 hours away. I'm like, sorry guys, but it also how cool. But so then it turned out to be really.
It turned out
cool.
to be incredible. I'm so glad we did it. It was actually super cool. The second plant is where, so the first one is where they make the actual bullets, right? So like the things that are flying through the air, killing the animal. In the second factory, those all get shipped over. It's like 30 minutes away, and they're actually making the ammunition. So actually loading, they build all the casings. So they have tool and die to make all the casings, all the brass wire. It was just super fascinating. And then they make the bullets there into ammo. So we got to see all that process. And then they also build and assemble all their rifles. So the Nosler 21, the Nosler 28, all of those are built there. Wow. They have their spray booths, their Cerakoting. I mean, it was freaking wild. And it's all in one little place. Like it was different than I expected, but the quality that you see and like their processes are, I don't know shit about that stuff, but I was really, really impressed.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Cool.
So then that gave you confidence in because your guys are shooting Nosler ammunition out of
then I was like, well, I better not miss because I know the bullet's good. I have no excuses.
Did you sight in with the Nosler ammunition?
Yeah.
And you also put on a new Riton. So Riton's one of our partners too. Yep. They're just more on like we do dynamic insertion. So you probably hear Riton a lot, but we don't talk about them that much. It's not part of like the agreement.
Yeah. So we brought.
But they outfitted you guys with
we were hooked up,
spotting scope and
rifle scope,
which I know you put on. So you sighted in your rifle with a Riton optic and the Nosler ammo, and
I should have shot more because I think I only shot 4 rounds through my rifle with a new scope before this hunt, which does not sound like a lot. But I got it bore sighted.
BZO'd it, then you're good, right?
Yeah,
what do you need to do?
It was good. Like I put the Riton on, got it bore sighted, shot my first shot at 50, and I was like low and left. I made my clicks. Second shot was in the little tiny yellow bullseye. It's like, dang, got lucky with the clicks. That looks good. Moved out to 100 in the bullseye again. I'm like, holy crap, right on. Moved it back to
right on.
Right on. That was unintentional, subconscious maybe. But then I put her back at 200 and pulled it like low and left. But I could tell I just pulled that shot a little bit. And I was like,
there's a podcast called Low and Left because that's what everyone always does. It's
low and left.
Yeah, that's funny. It's not our podcast. But.
We did shoot once we got there. We were a little bit worried about guns being jumbled, so we took a minute in kind of like midday one morning, and we did shoot, and we just shot at 100, but. Both of us were
you shooting at cans?
What'd
you do?
There's like a little gravel pit they knew about. So we just put Keegan gets about 1 million product boxes every day from sponsors and whatever.
How much fatties, how many fatties did he have on him?
None, because they never made it to the post office, but he had 600 fatty meat sticks coming to him and he didn't get any of them. So Keegan was hungry, poor guy. He didn't have his fatty meat sticks, which do look really good, by the way. But yeah, so we hit Nosler. It was awesome. Those guys took care of us, sent us with some Whitetail Country ammunition, sent us with some goodies. So that was really cool. And then it was a 5-hour drive down to where we were going to be hunting. So we made the drive, got down there. It was dark when we got there. So we met Lindon's mom, who was nice enough to let us stay in this little guest house that's like attached to their garage. So we hung out there, got to see the house, and
Drink some
basically
beers.
we drank a couple beers. That happened, and we kind of game plan for what's going to happen for the next day. Wildlife, photog, media, stone cold killer. I don't know who he's talking about. Yeah, sighting in for 50 yards is really a good call. We'll get to that. But yeah, we kind of game planned for the next day. And Lindon told us we're going to be hunting with his buddy Dylan, who is the game warden for that
Oh
entire
my God, he's the
region.
game warden?
Yeah, so
No
Lindon
pressure.
grew up with Dylan. Well, it's actually really nice because then you know you're
exactly,
doing
yes.
everything the
Or
way
if
you're
you're
supposed to
not,
be.
then you got a good contingency plan.
If you guys have not hunted out of state, it can be really scary and dicey because like rules change. There are like implied rules you don't really know about.
Even the filming was like a rule we were looking up earlier on, and it
Getting permits
that
for
had just
filming.
changed. Yeah.
And Keegan can tell you we're not going to put it out on air, but he kind of missed out on an opportunity that he possibly could have had if we had known what Dylan had told us afterward. So like there are all these little things that like if you're not from the area are just kind of taken for granted.
Fuck, Keegan? Just
that
kidding.
you don't know. It's not Keegan's fault.
I'm just giving him shit.
No, but we were going to be hunting with Dylan, who's the game warden. So we kind of devised the plan. Greg was like, Keegan, go with Derek and Dylan, and we were going to do kind of some still hunting. It was supposed to be rainy conditions, quiet. You can go
It's like a
sneak
free play,
around
yeah.
through the woods, and they said they knew about these oak patches that probably had acorns. Deer love feeding in those acorns, especially when it's raining. So we're going to go still hunt around. I was like, that's my game. I love that. I love still hunting. It's my favorite. So Greg was like, well, Derek will probably get an opportunity more than me. Greg kind of likes to set up for the shots a little bit more. So he's like, he can go with him. He might get some action. So we split up. Lindon went with Greg. We drive up to the top of the mountain, long drive in, and we're just like brimming with excitement. It's like fog rolling through the redwoods. We're like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And we just, start making our way down the mountain. And I see Dylan right from the start just walking really slow and really quiet. I'm like, this guy's good. This guy knows what he's doing. He's a good hunter. And so like we didn't even get to the good area yet, but he's just making sure that he's not seen, he's not heard. I was like, this is gonna be a good day. And we kind of made our way, and Dylan's explaining, all right, let's go a little bit. We look, the oak patch is going to be up ahead like 200 yards, and that's where we really want to slow down. So we get maybe 100 yards further, and all of a sudden he's like, we're walking maybe 30, 40 yards apart. He's like, there's some deer up here. So we get ready, and there's a group of does. And all of a sudden we start looking down. There's another group of does. Then about 200 yards away, 4 more does come up over the hill. We're like, oh my gosh, like they're in here. And then we see 2 bucks. They're probably like 220 on the other side of this little ridge. And we're trying to get a look at them, but they're kind of feeding quickly down this little valley. They kind of feed out of sight. We can't make a move on them because there's all these does between us and them. So we kind of are just waiting for the does to feed off. And then the does that were further away actually spooked. They didn't blow or anything, but like they just were looking at us. The sun is coming through behind them. There's rain falling. It's beautiful. But they kind of spooked off and they just ran over the hill. No big deal. And then the does that were close, the blacktail are pretty chill demeanor. Like they just look at you, even if you're walking. It's like look at you, just feed. They just like didn't really care. You like walk right by them. So like 100 yards away, just kind of walked by them, and we kind of rounded this point looking for those bucks. We never did find the bucks. We just kind of still hunted around there. Tons of deer sign, acorns all over the place. It's on a big mountainside. So we did some more checking around some spots. Didn't get them, didn't see them. Set up and rattled. Dylan had brought some rattling bag. He's like, let's rattle. So Keegan got his tripod set up, and we set up in this cool old knob and tried rattling. We're making all kinds of noise, kicking brush, throwing rocks, all kinds of crap, and having some fun. And then we kind of kept making our way down the hill, and we were going to rendezvous with Greg and Lindon. And we came down this little meadow, looked really cool, and there started to be a lot of tracks. Dylan set up ahead. There was a spot he really liked. We met up with Greg and Lindon, and those guys had seen a couple deer too. Greg got video. He just posted it on his Instagram story. This little buck who came like right toward them and like was fighting this little twig and like looking like the big tough guy. And it was super cool. So Greg and I are looking at each other like this has already exceeded expectations. Like I had seen like 13 deer and 2 bucks on like the first morning. Greg had seen like, a buck and a couple of does. We're like, so I told Dylan, I was like, dude, if we don't see another deer this whole trip, like this morning has been awesome already. So we ate lunch together, joked around, and then we were going to split up after lunch. And Dylan, Keegan, and I were going to go kind of back We cross this valley back up the hill, and Greg and Lindon were going to drop down this point into some thick stuff that got burned, and they were going to go check down there. And of course, Lindon he's like, "Well, we're going to go like to that mountain over there, pretty far." But they didn't get that far because we had just crossed this thick little creek. We come up this hillside. I had actually taken a fall. I got caught by a bush, which was really nice because I didn't fall down this big steep hill. So we had a little giggle about that. And then all of a sudden, right after that, we heard a gunshot. And we're all like, yes, something. And then we heard a second gunshot. We're like, oh no. 2 gunshots, sometimes not good. So Dylan and Lindon had walkie-talkies. So we just sat around like, what do you think happened? What do you think it was? Was it a bear? Was it like we're just anticipating? And a pretty extended period of time went by, like 10 minutes went by. And then Dylan's like, well, I'm going to try calling them, but I don't want to like ruin it in case there's something. So eventually he like tries calling Lindon. Lindon calls back and Lindon's like, yeah, let me call you back in a minute. And we're like, what could be happening? What could be happening over like a 15-minute span? So finally he gets back on the horn and he's like, yeah, Greg got a buck. And we're like,
Okay.
awesome. She's like, are you guys going to come over? And we're like, yeah, like, let's go over. Keegan's like, I want to get some footage. I'm like, yeah, let's go see what he did, So we went back the way we came. I didn't fall into the bush that time, so that was good.
2-handed bush shakers.
And then we crested over the hill, and it was a little bit further down than we thought, but you could just see there was like this ridge came down and it started to get real thick down on the bottom, and it kind of split into 2 fingers, and there was a beautiful little bowl. And what had happened is Greg and Lindon were sneaking down the edge of the ridge, and they peeked over into that bowl, and there was like 3 does and 2 bucks bedded there, and they were bedded looking uphill. So they had this thick shit to their back. The wind was coming up the valley.
Wow.
And they were watching up the hill for the skyline. So they popped out in some trees. So the deer kind of saw them, but didn't really. And Lindon saw the little buck, or the smaller of the 2, not little, but the smaller of the 2. And he was like, Greg, there's a buck right there. Does that get your heart going? Like, what do you think? Greg's like, he's nice, but like, not really. And Lindon's like, okay, well, there's a bunch of does over there too. So they're looking. And all of a sudden, the larger of the 2 gets up. I think I could be telling this wrong because we want to hear this from Greg, but the larger of the 2, I think, got up and got spooky and started making his way toward the thick brush. And then they were like, oh, there's a bigger one. Let's shoot her. So Greg got his gun up, but the deer was moving off into the thick stuff. And Greg was trying to get on him. This is probably like, I guess, like 100 yards, 110 yards, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to find him in the scope.
Yeah, and I don't think Greg's up against anything. I think he's just freehanding it. And it's a pretty steep angle because they're up on this ridge. Tricky. And the buck's moving off. And Greg took a shot at him because he had a decent shot. But he said as soon as he shot, he saw one of the shrubs or bushes right in front of him just blew up. So he nailed this tree. So the buck just kept running off, but he didn't go too far. He just like ran off and like stood, and then the does kind of ran over there. And then Lindon was like, Greg, that other buck's just standing there. So Greg is now in like predator mode. Yes, so he swings over to that one, boom, and lets her rip and smashes that one. And he took like a 10-yard sprint, jumped over a deadfall, and basically just crashed right after that.
Wow.
So we had just got there right as the guys found him. So we all came down the hill. Greg's buck is laying there, and it's been mostly like timber the whole way we've been walking. But right where Greg's buck died, because it starts to get thicker, it's all lower stuff. Right where that deer died, you look out over this valley, and it was like the most beautiful view of like just vast mountains and valley. It was absolutely gorgeous. I was like, dude, your deer died in the most pristine scenery like you could ever imagine. So we were all high-fiving and hoopla and celebrating Greg's buck, which was really, really cool. He got one the first morning. And it was a nice, they call them forked horns. So not fork horns, not forks, forked horns. This is just when they split. And Greg got a real nice one. Dylan said he'd
How
probably,
big do blacktail get? Like antler-wise?
they can get big, but
Like,
they're really rare.
Like a subspecies of a mule deer?
Kind of ish. Yeah. So like their bodies are smaller than whitetail, but they can get like a big one would be like 200 pounds would be like a real big one.
Wow. Okay.
And like you can get like 150-inch mule deer, or sorry, blacktail.
Okay.
Like they do, they can, but it's not that common.
Okay.
So we dragged that buck back up to the flat spot, and then Lindon and Dylan showed us how to do the gutless method of skinning and quartering the deer, so you don't have to remove any of the guts. You don't take any of it out.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we did that. And we put the Kafaru packs to the test. Lindon had a bunch of game bags, so we took apart Greg's deer. Greg did all the cutting.
How was that whole thing? Pretty
It was great.
pretty fun, probably,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, it was awesome. We were all together. Keegan was doing his photo thing.
Temperature wise, was it comfortable?
It was
or-
beautiful, absolutely perfect. I don't
Okay.
know, maybe like 60 degrees.
Not bad.
It was awesome. So we took apart the deer, loaded it in the bags, took some pictures first. Took some pictures, and then took care of the deer. Took all the meat off it. Lindon is real big on the organs, so
In what way? Like preserving them, or
yeah, heart, spleen,
Got it.
liver. He actually does something really cool that he got from Dylan, which I've never thought about, but like all of those things are really, really, really high in vitamins.
and iron?
Yeah, like all sorts of vitamins, like the spleen and stuff. Lyndon was saying like that is like a great testosterone booster, and like they do so all these great things. Like they produce your white blood cells. So like, why wouldn't you want to like eat that? But no one wants to eat a spleen. So what Dylan kind of came up with was he just puts those in the meat grinder with all the meat and grinds it into burger with the meat and mixes it in. You don't taste it, but you still get all the benefits of it. And I was like, it's kind of
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that. But it was cool taking care of the deer in the most beautiful spot we had seen all day. And what had happened with the pause in the radio thing was Lindon, after Greg shot that buck and they saw it go down, what did Lindon do? Took his open sight 338. He was like, I'm going to go get that buck. And he chased that buck down,
Oh, the other one.
down into the valley. Yeah,
big-
the
the
first
big
one
one.
that Greg missed, they hit the branch. Lindon chased that buck. So he came up the hill, he was almost a little bit tired, almost. And I was like, how far down did you go? He's like, a ways. I was like, how far? And he's like 5 benches down. So he said he got really close. The buck didn't want to run that far, but it was in the thick stuff. He couldn't get a shot at it. So that's what happened. We ended up divvying up the meat, and then we didn't realize it till then, but we had hiked 3 miles downhill, down the mountain from the truck. So Greg loaded up. It's
The way
afternoon.
back is
It's
uphill.
afternoon by then. Yep. So then Greg and Lindon did the 3-mile trek with me up the mountain.
Oofda.
Yeah. So they got back to the car just before we did. We went back to where we originally were and we hunted our way up the mountain.
Okay.
We ended up having an encounter or two, but no chances. Yeah. Sorry. Anything good you see? No? Good. Great photos. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Mike. So first day was huge success. There were beers. There were beers.
Yeah, I've always
There were
known at this
beers. We were
point.
celebrating Greg and his buck and
Did you guys, when you were there, did you say Oregon or Oregon?
Oregon.
That was correct.
Oregon. Yep.
You say Oregon like you're from Wisconsin. That's not the correct way to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
So we ended up regretting, like Greg got the still hunting buck when, it would have been nice if Keegan was there, but it worked out the
we
way
have
it
one
did.
camera guy. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's okay. That's the way the
We're
OKS
the
Hunter,
OKS Hunter.
rules.
We're not made out of money.
So when the film comes out, there will be no footage of the kill, but you'll see lots of footage from before and directly after.
That's how my stuff goes. I only
Um,
kill when there's not a camera guy with me, apparently.
The deer I ended up shooting, I think there was 7 cameras on, so we made up for it on the other one.
But I'm sure Greg's pretty good at, you're oddly good at vlogging, which is a testament to when I was with you and we were hanging trail cams. I was like, can you vlog? Because I'm just too awkward. I don't know how Greg is, but
Greg did a bunch.
it's an awkward thing to do. I don't know why. You
Yeah.
do a good job, but you have more confidence or something. I just get really freaking weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Lyndon did not like the camera.
I don't want to drink too much. I got lots to do.
Poor
now.
Lyndon.
Like I
Camera
because I
came
have
out
lots
and Lyndon didn't want to be on it. Lyndon's a great guy. He should be on it.
He should be on it because he's like an author.
Yeah.
Let's talk about selling some more books.
So
Him
Lyndon,
and Zach Hansen should probably meet and like collab on some book stuff.
yeah.
Because Zach, who does the OKS Trapper, also wrote a book called Turning Feral, which is right over there, which I've read half of it. And it's really interesting.
Yeah. So if you want to be a beast like Lyndon, definitely get his book. And he is working on more books right now. So
Wow. Okay.
the second one has nothing to do with about health or healthy eating or healthy lifestyle. It has other things. But I wasn't privy to the insider information, but he was very excited about it, which makes me very excited.
When I
about
first met Lindon, I don't remember how I came in contact with him. It must have been through some like social media networking stuff. But there was an intro somewhere along the way, and I knew he was writing a book, and I was like, well, whenever you're ready, let's have you on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you talk to so many people about so many ambitions and ideas, myself included. I have all sorts of stuff. And it's like, an idea is worth shit until you go do it. So I was like, well, maybe this guy will write a book, maybe he won't. Well, he did.
He's
and then we had
super
him on,
motivated.
and then it's when he invited us, how this whole thing came to fruition. So like,
Lyndon is super motivated guy. He's got his hands in a little bit of everything. He's actually working for a
'Cause what's
nonprofit for a
his
bear. I don't know the name, so I apologize. But it's like the National Bear something or another, North American Bear. He's actually working on. I can't give too much away, but he's working on a project that could help save lives from bear attacks, which is really cool.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, he explained a little bit about it, and it was awesome. So he's doing all the things for all the right reasons, and he's a hell of a hunter, hell of a
Like
guy.
his accolades are really unique. Like he comes from like you talk about the healthful stuff, like his background in that stuff. I forget what it is, but it's very
He's got a master's in kinesiology and
yeah.
like all the
He is
studies
an
of all those
authority on the
things.
topics he's talking about.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's using his own body as an exemplar of those very things is really hard from a disciplinary standpoint. You know, David Asprey's someone that I've read some of his books called The Bulletproof Diet, and he talked about he spent 12 years in the mountains trying to perfect coffee. But he's also one of those guys that has like been a big adopter of biohacking, where he uses his own body
Mm.
with sheer levels of insane amounts of discipline to see if his body as an experiment of the scientific method can withhold the things that like this diet or that diet, these activities will, if you'll get the outcome that it says it will get. And so when he did the bulletproof coffee or bulletproof book diet, it's all about ketosis and all that bullshit.
Mhm.
I just like the coffee. It's delicious. I'm like, but these people of extremes that do the David Goggins of the world, the Dave Aspreys, these people that do extreme things, the Cam Hanes even, Lynn and Lauren apparently.
Lyndon,
it's really cool.
but his mindset about that
balance
stuff
is
is really
impressive.
unique because it's nothing extreme. He does the rule of 50, which is if I can't do it for 50 years, I'm not interested in doing it for a day.
I love that.
So it's all sustainable things that are just good for you.
Yeah.
Which is just smart and badass.
Yeah, it's when I say the word exemplar, I've gotten that word from philosophy, not just stoicism, but philosophy in general. And to me, it means actually 2019 was fascinating because my New Year's resolution for 2019 was to be an exemplar of marketing. And insofar as I don't want to tell people what to do, because I don't believe that you can convince anyone to do anything, because you can't even convince yourself to do shit like go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. But if you're an exemplar and you're just doing these things and people just happen to see, you'll inspire people to raise to that level. And Lindon is an exemplar of those things because it just
100%.
makes you intrinsically want to be better because he shows you that it is possible.
Absolutely.
And I love that. People that do that stuff, it's my favorite thing. And if you're going to tell me I should do this and the other thing, fuck off. Like, because you're probably not doing those things.
I hear you.
That's it.
No, he's a great exemplar, and a bunch of the people we met while we were there, same way. I mean, I just have to say, I can't say enough good things about the
and I bet you
people
no
that
ego
we met.
too, by the way.
None.
Ego is the
Should
enemy.
have all of
This
it.
is like
Should have all of it.
correct because
Shows none of it.
He could
None of it.
put anyone to shame. But just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And when you don't, it's just you're a better human. And you know, I don't know, man. The podcast network, the people on our network are exemplars, no egos. Just that's how we've been able to pick the right people. Is we have a good baseline of what we expect out of this, and that's the echoing tone, or the tone that will echo through the network, regardless of the subject matter you're listening to. You're gonna have the same tonality across our network, and I love that. I like
That's hard to do.
It's really hard to find people like this that do these things, and they're the best people in our society. Like
100%.
I don't mean probably.
Boy, that sounds a bit braggadocious.
People that can live that way. And I don't know what it is about ego that is unattractive. We all have ego. It's there, but when you don't have it, it's so much more attractive.
Agreed.
So people like Lindon, I'm just drawn to that. Like, wow, I want to be that. You know, I want to be living my best life. I want to be living the best way possible to get the most out of it. Well, it's freaking cool.
You'll have to, just make the next trip out there.
We have invites for some things in springtime.
Yep.
I'll keep it on the DL for now, but it's very in the cards and possible.
We'll jump back into the story here. So first night, celebrate, and Greg and I both kind of realized that like how things are gonna go, right? like this place is amazing.
Yeah.
The things we
I wouldn't
saw,
have
the
expected
things we
Oregon
did,
to be this way, though. Like, I
freaking
don't think
beautiful.
of hunting when I think of Oregon. I think of hippy dippy, like,
Well, yeah, there's parts of it that are that, but most of it is just rugged wilderness.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you look at the map and like there is wild places there, like truly wild places.
everything I did was on a trail, usually leading to a waterfall, which
Where
were
the hippies were.
beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous.
but not
gorgeous.
the same thing.
But I think Greg and I both had a moment where we realized, like, holy cow, like this is really truly special. And like these guys just took us to a place where we saw like damn close to 20 deer, which
Dude.
like blacktails are elusive. Some people say they're one of the hardest critters to hunt in North America. Like the Coues deer, very
Yeah.
difficult to hunt, the gray ghost of the desert. But like blacktail is the gray ghost of the Pacific Northwest that lives in like redwood forests and like.
The trees were huge.
Did you see the picture
I
of Greg's
saw-
tree?
Yes, but
Greg has a picture of a tree that is a
there's-
redwood that's big as this room.
Dude, there were some. Just seeing the deer and the one that where Greg posted the deer. I'm like, this deer in context of that forest doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's how do you pick that terrain apart? What is this? And it reminds me of like most all Hollywood movies, like what's that vampire movie where they glitter? With that stupid girl that breathes a lot. Fuck. Anyway,
glitter face and werewolf boy.
Yeah.
What the heck is
Twilight?
that? Twilight.
And then what's the other? There's another flick like where they're the Hunger Games. Most of what Hollywood's depicting seems more like that. I'm like, you can't walk up on deer and big. What is this shit? That's what it was.
Yeah.
So when you're describing this, my mind's going to these damn Hollywood movies, and I'm like, I've never experienced that type of hunt. Like, we have these whitetail that are spooky as shit.
They're different, very different demeanor.
Yeah.
The blacktail
and the environment is
and what the guys
so big.
And what Dylan and Lindon kind of explained is their whole thing is camouflage, is to hide. So they don't move because their biggest asset is just to not move and not be seen. So like you can walk close to them. Like, I mean, they're going to spook at some point. Absolutely. But not nearly. Like you walk up by a big white-tailed doe, she spots you, you make a move, she's probably blowing and running.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not the case. They just hide. So like they blend in insanely well and they're super tiny. Most of the deer we saw are like Labrador size.
Oh, wow.
Like they're not huge for the most part.
Yep.
So like they hide well. They tuck into the environment and they just blend. They don't have any super bright white on them. They just blend in. So like their whole game is not to move, which makes sense for like everything I saw. Like that's what they do. They just watch. Like, am I going to be in danger or should I just stand here and pretend
something I wish
they
our
can't
whitetail
see me?
would do? Because like they're always panicking.
Yeah. So on that topic, the next day we got word that one of the timber companies, much like our managed forest law land, like timber companies that are open, we got word that the gates were opening on one that they knew very well. So
Because you're hunting with
they're
a
gated,
game warden.
and then one day, they'll just randomly open the gate, and then hunting's open there. So like
So
want
it had
to be
been cut, and then they opened the gate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So it's all timberland,
Yep.
right? So they did all sorts. I mean, it's not all logged. It's like a huge property, and then they have roads. Right?
They were done here. You can go back in.
So then they open the gate. Some guy comes, opens the gate. So we got word, gates opening.
Okay.
Gates open in the morning. So we decided to go there. So then that was all glassing. So now we're trying to find these little teeny tiny deer.
I'll put on the screen. Sorry.
Yeah, everyone knows that.
Well, vampires have no scent. Everyone knows that.
They
Okay.
can smell garlic from a mile away. I'll tell you that. So then we're trying to spot them. So we did a lot of spotting, glassing all day. And Keegan probably has some really funny footage of me because the guys who do glassing a lot have like these nice little tripods for their binoculars. So the binoculars are still, and you look through them, you can see if deer are moving. I did not have that, but I'm
which
not.
I said if you don't have something stable for this spotting scope,
I have a tripod for the spotting scope, but a lot of it's binoculars.
Got it. And those binoculars are damn good for
I love the binoculars.
They are like wow.
Best binoculars I've ever had.
Either I had a really shitty pair or there's a really good or a little bit of both.
I've never had super good ones, but these are by far the best I've ever had. So I love them. But I could not.
Because they let in a lot of light.
I couldn't get steady.
Okay.
So Keegan's got all kinds of footage of me using like broken sticks and like the tripod on the bipod on a gun, and like he's gonna have some ridiculous as hunter shit.
Montage.
But like I was trying to make it work because holy cow, does it make a difference when they're steady. And then Keegan and Dylan just keep reminding us, remember, It's not going to be big. You're going to see like a teeny tiny little ear. Like they're small, especially when they're
And they're not moving.
1,000 yards away or whatever. So we did some glassing. I don't think we saw too much in the morning. We did some driving around, checking out spots. And then in the evening, we ended up going to this one area that they had some luck in the past. And it's a lot of like green, brushy cover low to the ground. That is a lot of feed and a lot of cover for the deer. There's like multiple little ridges. So we're glassing there. So it's getting dark. We see a couple does. And all of a sudden, we spot a nice buck. I think it's a forked horn, but it's like a big fork horn.
Mm-hmm.
Like 16 inches wide. Really nice buck. Biggest one we'd seen so far. And he's on a ridge 520 yards away with a doe. And Dylan immediately runs to his truck and gets out his gun. Now, these guys are prepared for long ranges. So they have like long range rifles, scopes that zoom in past 9x. And he's got a bipod on the front. And he sets it down. He's like, Derek, he's like, lay down right here. That's a really good buck. See if you can get him in the scope. We'll see what we can do here.
See if you can get him in this.
See if you. Well, I mean,
totally different.
It was.
Like, that's not something
I failed. I failed at it. I could not get him in the scope.
Really?
In time. Yep. It never happened to me ever. But it's low light. It's not dark yet, but it's low light. He's 520 yards. It's a dark back.
How frustrating did that feel?
I was so frustrated.
What the fuck? I can't get him in the scope. Like,
I was so frustrated for a number of reasons. Number one, I was frustrated with myself for not being able to do it. But number two, I really felt like I was letting everyone down because everyone had worked so hard that day. Everyone was working for me that day. You know what I mean? Like Greg got his buck. Everyone's trying to find a deer for me. Here we find this deer. There he is. And you know what I mean? Like I felt like I
got your moment. You couldn't find the hole, huh?
Could not. No, I couldn't. And so like I'm looking through there and I'm trying to get steady. So you got like a bag under the back, the bipod in the front, and you're trying
laying prone.
Laying prone.
Best way to do
520 yards. It's a long way. There's multiple ridges. As soon as you lay down, all the ridges kind of stack up a little bit. So I'm trying to find, and it's all green bushes, and his head is sticking up through the green bushes. And I'm like, guys, I'm trying. So then when I would find him, okay, I got him. Trying to keep it steady. It's not rock solid because I'm moving it so much. So I'm like moving it with myself. So then I'm trying to zoom in on him, right? 16x, 18x. And as I zoom in, because it's low light, the eye relief. So like when you move your eye in the wrong place, the eye relief just gets smaller and smaller, and black creeps in because there's low light. So as soon as I get to the point where I can see him like halfway decent, most of my scope is filled in black and I can barely see. And then I like lose him. And now I got to re-find him. Zoom back out. And I'm trying to get on him. And like when he's actually in my scope broadside, the bottom of my gun is not resting on anything. Like and everyone's like, he's moving up, he's moving over the back of the ridge. And like, they're telling me to be helpful.
The deer's not hearing you.
But I have 4 people telling me what to do, what's going on. And I'm just fucking panicking. I'm just like, guy, I can't get him. I can't get him. And I've never held this gun before in my life. I'm trying to I was really struggling and I messed it up. I just messed it up. He ended up working off the backside of the ridge with the dome. Never saw him.
Oh my God. So you're like, opportunity is done.
So light faded and I was just like, I'm really sorry guys. Like I just messed it up. I couldn't get him. And then like, even if I had got him in the scope,
then what?
520 yard shot. Like I never shot that far. I shot 200 at cardboard, 3 weeks before.
And if they had that rifle BZO'd, like hopefully all set, but there's like a velocity drop there that's really hard to account for. So like if you're aiming at the heart, are you gonna hit the heart? Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
So it all played into the next day, which was our last full day of hunting. The third day was our last full day of hunting, and then the following day, Sunday, we were gonna have to leave, maybe a morning hunt, and then we had to leave. So we went back to the same property. We went to that same spot. And I convinced the guys, they maybe thought I was a little bit crazy, but a little bit of whitetail in me. I was like, instead of driving down to the landing where we saw him, which was like the road on the side of the hill, and then like a little point that sticks out looking over there, I was like, can we park the truck here? Because like, I don't want to drive by all the deer. I know your deer don't spook, but like in my whitetail brain, if we can just not show them the truck at all, maybe they won't go into hiding so quick or like, they were like, not drive the truck down there. And I was like, yeah, it's not far. Like, let's just park it here on the backside of the hill and like, let's walk down and like glass our way down. That was
probably challenging because you're like, I'm with people I don't know.
Well, and I'm
trying to tell them what they do. I would do things.
I just asked, like, I was like,
great.
I don't mind walking. Can we just like, and then we can glass our way down and get different vantages.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, they were super accommodating and like, we'll listen to this stupid whitetail flatlander, and they entertained me. But I felt a little bit better when we got down in the first little glassing point. I spotted a doe in the brush below us that we would have not seen.
How hard
from
was
over
that
there.
to do?
I mean, it was difficult. It's all green brush, and there's just a little face with ears sticking out.
Oh my God.
All green brush. And I was like, guys, I got a doe. Good spot. We're all looking. Good spot, and we're looking, and all of a sudden there's another one. We worked down a little bit. We ended up seeing like 7 or 8 does. And Lindon is like, he knows it's the last full day, so his drive was at a new level. I could just see it in him. He really wanted me to get one. He's like, Derek, there's so many does in here. That buck
Gotta be a buck.
has to be in here.
Yeah.
He's like, he's not going to leave. And while we're
Is this
glassing
rut
these
for
does,
these deer at this point in time of the year? 'Cause
not
that
quite.
Deer was like the one that
it's
Greg
kind of
was
similar.
was rubbing a lot.
It's kind of similar. It's kind of like pre-rut.
Okay.
But those 2 bucks, the Greg one shot and the other, they were bedded together. So
they
they
were
still
not.
the big ones. No, it's not quite time, but the little ones, they're starting to get a little rammy.
Yeah.
Right? They're starting to get a little excited. So while we're glassing these does, all of a sudden this truck drives on this road on the other side of the ridge, and they get out, and we see people running down the road, and then we hear a gunshot. And Lindon was glassing, and he's like, they shot uphill. So uphill from where we had seen all the deer. But Lindon's like, I wonder if it was that buck. And he was working his way back down. We can't see what they shot, but we know they got one. So they go up there. We can see them like field dressing. This is like far, far away, 1,200 yards away. And we're still glassing. We see all these does. We had does come right underneath us. Greg spotted these 2 does. He's like, guys, they're right underneath us. Like 80 yards away, these 2 does come running right underneath the landing. And it was super cool, but the buck, we never saw the buck. And then we had this little question mark of like, did he get shot? Because I was like, I want to come back here in the evening and see if he'll come back out. All these does are in here. Let's see. But we ended up going to a bunch of other spots. It had been a full moon all week. It was kind of warm. We glassed and we glassed and we glassed like 3 or 4 different spots. We could not turn up a deer. Nothing. No bear, no deer, nothing was moving. So it was the middle of the day. We've been glassing this huge valley, and Lindon's like, you know what?
Is it like fishing when there's a full moon and they all eat at night because it's bright and they
Yeah.
see?
So then like during
they're in the middle of the night, they're just out.
Then they're usually bedded early in the morning.
We're full. We're not getting up now.
You usually get like a little bit of maybe midday movement where they shift, but then they bed back down. So we just didn't see much movement at all. So Lindon said, hey, I got my bear caller. Let's hike down into this big valley. There's a couple big drainages that come down to this creek. Let's see if we can call in a bear or a cougar. And we're like, sweet, let's do it. So we all go hiking down there, and he sets up his caller. And at this point, we're with one of his buddies, Denny, really nice dude. And we're in Denny's truck, and we go down there and we set up the caller. We all take a different vantage point. We called for like 40 minutes and nothing. So we hike back up the hill. We're all sweaty. We're all tired. We're all a little bit grumpy. And we're going to go meet up with their other buddy, Justin, who had taken his wife out that morning. And they saw a bunch of does, but no bucks. So we drive back up to the top.
You only have buck tags, or what's the?
We only have buck tags.
Okay.
Yep. I don't think they shoot many blacktail does. I don't know how that works with residents, but it doesn't seem like they get antlerless tags. So we drive back up to the mountain and we meet up with Justin, and he's like, oh, I've been waiting for you guys for like an hour. And we're like, yeah, sorry, we were calling bears. And he's like, yeah, we were just shooting off the mountain. And then it's like, what do you mean? He's like, wow, there's a big rock face. We're shooting like 580 yards, just practicing. And Lindon looks at me, he's like, you want to practice? And I was like, yes, please, let's practice. So we all drove up there, and by now there's a bunch of us, Justin and his daughter and Denny and 5 of us. So we got a big group of people, and we're all kind of hanging out. And there's a big rock face, 580 yards. Guys get out their spotting scopes and like, pick a rock. Just tell us which one you're going to shoot at, and then we'll get you all dialed in, get steady.
So cool that you can just go freaking shoot.
Yeah. So it was awesome.
Yards
so Justin is like, dude, use my gun. So you can use it the rest of the trip. It's all set up. I'm not using it. Just keep it with you. It's a 300 Win Mag. He's got a suppressor on it. It's got a really good.
You know, people don't realize about suppressors. It's good for hearing protection.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Well, yeah, and it reduces recoil.
Yeah.
He's like, the gun doesn't kick. It doesn't make any noise. Shoot this. So he's like, let's practice. So I pick a rock. I tried to pick something that was like blacktail size-ish in my brain, but it's awfully hard to tell at 580. So like there's a bunch of big rocks, and I picked one that looked small. I thought it was like pumpkin size. So I line up for the first shot, and he's giving me tips because I've never shot long range ever. And he's like, you don't just touch it to your shoulder. Don't pull it in, and definitely do not grab the stock. Just put your hand on the side of the stock, and you're just going to touch the trigger with your finger. Don't worry about holding it. It's not going to kick. okie dokie. So I lined up on this thing. We got the minute of angle all adjusted for the distance. It's pretty windy. There's a breeze through the canyon. So we line up, shoot the first shot true, aiming straight at the rock, hit 2 feet right. Oh, hey, close. Up and down was good. You're aiming to the right, or you hit to the right because of the wind. Move, they got like the reticle lines.
Mm-hmm.
Just move over 2 reticles. Try shooting 2 reticles left. Jacking another shell. I'm like, oh, geez, that felt pretty good. Touch off the second one, real close to the rock, just a little bit left. All right, 1 reticle to the left. Let's try her out. So the third shot at 580, busted the rock, blew it up. Lindon's like, dude, game on. Like, you nailed it. Like, we're good. Like, you can shoot one far now, like if you need to.
Oh my God.
And I was like, holy cow, it gave me tons of confidence. Lindon also told me before I shot, like, do a couple dry fires. So I'm lining up on it, and I'm just no bullet in, click, get the dry fires and ease the nerves.
Mm-hmm.
So I was feeling pretty good. And while all this is going on, 2 other guys, buddies of theirs, who already filled their tags, Johnny and Chris's son Noah, they pull up. And they're like, who's got tags? What are we looking for? And they're like,
tags?
Derek. They're like, this is his last night. We got to get him a buck. So everyone there's like 10 people. They're like coming up with a plan. Well, with 10 sets of eyes, we're going to find something. You know,
Oh
we're
my
going to.
gosh.
So all these people are gracious to donate their time. And Chris and Johnny are like, well, dude, last night we were out here. We saw 2 forked horns. Would you shoot a forked horn? And Lindon's like, he'll shoot anything. He just needs a buck. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, whatever you got, let's go. So we decided to go back to the huge valley where we were calling bears. It's really big. And we're all going to spread out and we're going to glass for those forked horns or whatever comes out. So we're all driving over there. We start glassing right in the beginning. Johnny and Chris go a little bit further. Justin goes up. There's a road way up on top of the mountain and he's glassing from up there. And the Chris guy's like, well, just so you know, last night they came out at about 1,000.
Whoa.
And I kind of dropped my jaw. I was like, and Justin, the guy whose gun it was, he's like, oh, he'll shoot 1,000. No problem. And I was like, what? And he's like, you're good. I was like, I don't think so. He's like, yeah, you got it.
I don't shoot over 90 yards.
So he's like,
in
he's
Wisconsin.
just bolstering me, right? With this like fake confidence. Like, oh, you got it, dude. Like, you got good form.
You're like,
you know?
no, I fucking don't.
He's buttering me up. And I was like, dude, I killed a deer at 180 once. Like, that's the furthest.
That felt difficult.
So I was like getting kind of nervous. But then he let us know that he did glass them from the higher road. So now we're on the lower road. So I'm like, well, that's going to knock off like 200 yards.
800.
So that'll be better. So we pull up and we see Chris and Johnny, and they've got the spotters. So like our spotter from right on, super nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mini me size, like the bite size.
Yeah, I'm sure we didn't have the best.
They
version.
have the giant one where you can like zoom in on the pubic hair of the deer. Like they've got the big guy, and they already have a buck spotted. So like, we got a forked horn right here. And when they said that,
oh my God,
panic ensued. Everyone's like, oh my God, like get the gun.
Everyone's
get
just
the
watching
gun.
you.
Now there's 10 people, right? 3 of them are already filming it. They're like, and I was like, guys, calm down. There's like 35 minutes till dark. Let's keep glassing. Let's see if anything else comes out. Like, yeah, let's see, maybe a bigger one comes out.
But also get the gun.
Well, I was just, for me, I was like diverting their attention. I was like, let's see if there's anything else. So then I got the gun out and I got set up without everyone watching me. And Lindon comes up and I already told Lindon, I was like, dude, I don't want everyone watching me because I get super nervous. I don't want to let everybody down. So he comes up to me and he's like, dude, do some dry fires. He's like, just kill that buck with dry fires.
That's pretty cool.
And I was like, sweet. So I get all set up. Everybody's just glassing for other deer and they're spotting some does and this. I'm not really paying attention. And I'm on that forked horn buck. He's on the mountain across. We're on one mountain way up at the top. There's a valley, a river. He's on the other one on the tree line way at the top. And I got lined up with that same gun I just practiced with.
This is crazy because this is so opposite of like the intimacy of bow hunting.
It's the exact opposite. We had actually talked about it, how like uninteresting that is. But it was kind of interesting.
She's like, oh, you're killing from 5,000 yards away with these high-powered scopes. But listen to the emotion and the adrenaline and the feelings and the nerves that are going into this. This is crazy. Sorry, I just had to impart that.
It was very different.
Worth talking about.
It was very different. So
I'm not used to this.
While everyone is looking, 10 other people are looking for deer. I lined up on that deer. I got super steady. I took my time. There was enough light. I flicked off the safety, no chamber, no
Did
bullet
you
in the
tell them you're
chamber.
gonna shoot? So then, what's
No,
the
there was no
silencer? So it
bullet
doesn't
in.
matter.
No
Oh,
bullet
I
in.
see. Okay.
And I squeeze off. And Lyndon's like, how'd it feel? I was like, he's dead. I was like, he's dead. I was like, I felt good. I shot that gun a couple hours earlier. I felt really confident. I was
Chamber
like,
around.
I was like, we can make it happen. And I was like, okay, let's just give it a couple more minutes. So we're looking and then we're spotting some other does. Haven't seen any other bucks yet, but it's starting to get darker now. And I got a little bit worried about what happened the night before with the scope. So it came to a point where Lyndon comes up to me and he's like, it's getting a little darker. And I was like, all right, it's time. I was like, okay, guys, I'm putting a shell in the chamber. Get your spotting scopes on them. So Keegan had taken all the time. He's got his freaking telephoto bazooka. He's got his telephoto bazooka aimed over there. He's got GoPros everywhere. Everybody's got their like scopes, phone scopes, like so they can videotape it. Everybody's on this thing. And I don't know. I like really did a good job of like taking everything out. Nothing was bothering me. I was just focused 100% on the deer and on the shot. And we got it all dialed in, and I just watched him, and he turned pretty much broadside, and I held right on the shoulder, and I squeezed one off at 783 yards.
God.
And I couldn't see what happened because as soon as you pull the
You're
scopes
done.
off,
Yeah.
but everybody's like, "You got him! You great shot! You nailed him! You got him, dude! You got him!" And they're all
Did
watching
you
him.
see any footage afterwards from Keegan or anything?
Yeah,
like
I've
that?
seen a bunch of
Okay.
footage. So I hit him, but I hit him further back. So
Okay.
the bullet drifted, and later on, Chris explained to me, who does a lot of long range, he's like, "Yeah, at that range, the actual like if the barrel is rifled clockwise, it'll pull your bullet to the right
Wow.
at that distance." So he's like, "Probably was that." I was like, "Okay," but it hit him mid body, and I mean,
it was a
the footage, his
lethal
whole
hit.
yeah, lethal hit. So he
Terminal, as
he
Nosler would
he
say,
like
right?
walked quickly about 80 yards, and then he started coming down the hill, went behind a tree. We didn't see him anymore.
Okay.
And these guys, this is what they do. So like he's like, I already got it screenshot exactly the last place we saw him. Got it screenshot where you hit him, so we should be able to find it, no problem. And then he's like, check this out. He had it in slow mo, and when that bullet hits at that distance, his whole body goes like the shock of the bullet. His body just like shakes. It was just wild. So we're all like high five, and everybody can't believe I hit it. I turn around and look to like high five Justin, the guy whose rifle it is, and he has this weird look on his face of like total relief. And I'm like, "You good, dude?" He's like, "I'm so happy you hit that deer." And I was like, "You didn't think I was gonna?" He goes, "Well, I don't want to tell you, but like that rifle's never killed anything over 500 yards." And I was like, "You guys made it sound like you were shooting 1,000 yards." He's like, "Yeah, no, never, dude. I could not have made that shot." He's like, "I'm so happy. I just wanted you to feel like you could do it. And if you would have missed it, I'd have felt super bad." So he buttered me up the whole time. And then we made it happen. And he let the cat out of the bag. He's like, I didn't know it was gonna happen.
What the fuck?
So it was pretty cool. And I really did expect all these guys to like high five me, say good job, and then be like, "Oh, cool, good luck with like the recovery." Every single person that was there. Noah, 10-year-old kid,
I saw
the
some of that
daughter
video.
in her cowgirl
Yeah.
boots. Everybody was like, "Let's go get it." It was 0.9 miles. One of the guys on Onyx, your shot was 0.9 miles, just so you know. I was like, "Are you shitting me?" He's like, "Yep, that's the distance from here to the buck, 0.9 miles." So we had to go down the canyon, got super steep, cross the creek.
Got thick, and then there's
up.
a creek. How was that?
The creek was not bad. It was pretty
Okay, it was
dry.
pretty chill.
It was the only flat part. I was like, "Guys,
Then you're
enjoy the
back
20
up.
yards of flat." And then there's poison oak down there, thorn bushes, and then it's really steep. There's a huge rock slide, so there's like a giant cliff face. That
You had
was
to
right.
navigate around that.
Yep. So we had to navigate around that. We had 3 headlamps for everyone that was there.
So did they have enough batteries?
We just
Like, you
tried
guys
to
were
walk. Yep. We just tried to stagger it so that the people in front
Everyone
would
could
have
see
lights.
something,
Yep.
yeah.
And then we got up there, and everybody did really good. It was rugged terrain. We all got over there.
Poured it up in the dark.
And Keegan this was the first time Keegan like rose his voice the whole trip. He's like, "Nobody go find that deer. When you get close, you let me know." Derek goes up. We blood trail the deer. We get it on film. Everyone's like, "Okay." He's like, "You don't go up there and go, 'Found it.'" Not doing that. So Keegan set the tone, and we got up there, and everybody.
Yeah, because it's go, go, go the whole time. So,
Yeah.
like, as a videographer, you got to, like,
And
set
some
your
people
shots.
are flying up the hill.
Yeah.
And I kind of just took up the back just to make sure Everything was good. Everybody got up okay. And we got up there. We found blood at impact, but we found guts. And I was like, see, I think it's further back than we thought. And it was a little rough going in the beginning, but the guys had all the videos on their phone. So like, he walked by this tree, and then we started finding more
I
blood.
can't believe you guys could identify the fucking tree.
That-
How does it do it like 90 yards away? Things get different and weird.
Yeah.
Even in a tree stand from 15 yards away, things get weird.
But it's different because it's a clear cut. So it's just like short, stubby stuff. And then he was feeding on the edge of the woods. And when we got up there, it was all acorns on the edge.
Yeah.
So it was like the trees on the edge. So they were easily identified.
Got it.
So then we started to find more blood. And then at one point, he was like side hilling, and then he started going downhill. And I was like, okay,
That's a
this
good
is
sign.
probably a good sign.
Yeah.
And we were going down a little bit, and all of a sudden, Justin, the dude who borrowed me the rifle, was like, hey, Derek, what's that up there? And there was like a down.
He could say, shut up.
There was a down tree. No, there's a down tree, and there was just like a brown spot, but it looked like a burl, So I was like, it could be him. And he's like, yeah, we should definitely go check that out. I was like, yeah, let's go check that out. So we went down there, and it was him, and a little 4-corn buck, but that was like, I wrote a post today, and that one was definitely, it was like it was the team. Like everybody worked so hard for me and like wanted me to get a deer so bad. They all that was just incredible. Like, that's so not my cup of tea. Like, shooting a deer at that range, like, it's not as intimate, but everyone was like so excited and wanted it so bad, and they worked so hard for me to get a freaking some guy they didn't even know.
Can't be measured in inches, dude.
It was
really
such a
can't.
community.
In fact, in this case, could be measured in almost a fucking mile.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean,
0.9 miles to be
we
exact,
sat
but-
around that deer and we just talked and laughed, and it was really beautiful. Like, it was a moment I'll never forget.
That's cool. That's really special, man. That's something very different.
It was really cool.
What? So then,
I'm like getting teary-eyed thinking about it.
then you had to like cord it up and pack it out in the dark.
Oh, you know what the hardest part about that was?
God.
You know the hardest part about having 10 hardcore hunters and 1 deer to skin? Everyone's like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I feel like I'm not doing anything. So we were divvying up all the different tasks, and I was passing off quarters. Like, hey, you want to cut that leg off? Oh yeah, let me do that. And so everybody was just so happy and so excited, and everybody kept congratulating me and saying, nice job, good shot, and this and that. And we just had a really good time.
Poor Greg didn't shoot one at 0.9 miles, so he didn't get that experience.
No, we kind of flip flopped. Greg is typically like the long range guy.
Yeah.
Out of especially me and him.
Yeah.
And like, I'm the still hunting kind of guy, and he got the still hunting buck, and I shot a longer range buck, which was kind of weird. But
you guys spent a lot of time together. You flew together. You're at the airport together. You drove together.
Yeah.
Like, good for the two of you to just bond it up.
Yeah, I wish we had switched car ride spots. I rode with Keegan a ton, which was awesome. And Keegan and I get along super well. We grew up 30 minutes apart, turns out.
That's right.
We know all the same lakes up north. Great guy. Love Keegan. But Greg rode with Lindon almost everywhere. And I wish we had maybe switched once or twice. Just because I didn't get to like talk one-on-one with Lindon as much as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But we took care of the deer. We got off the mountain back to the truck at 9:20. Which was so much faster than I could have ever imagined.
Because you had so much help.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Super cool. Got back to the truck, and one of the guys had a case of White Claws in the back. He's like, all right, party time. And we stood around, and Keegan set up some GoPros, and we just talked and hung out and celebrated, enjoyed the moment.
Did you fry up any backstraps or anything like that? Like,
yeah,
did you guys eat anything right out of the gate?
The next morning.
What does Blacktail taste like?
It tasted exactly like whitetail, but all we had was inner loins, the tenderloins.
Yep.
But it was awesome.
Got some butter and some onions, like that's how in a frying pan.
No onions, and we didn't do butter. Keegan has some stomach gastrointestinal stuff from his time up in Alaska, where he had some run-ins with some bad stuff. So we just cooked it in a little tiny bit of olive oil.
Got it.
Salt and pepper, and it made some eggs, and it was awesome.
Good.
We did Greg's and mine. Greg cooked them up. I said, Greg,
yeah,
can you please do it, because I like it when you do it. It's so good when you do those. I like the way you do it, Greg. Tastes so good when he cooks. But yeah, we hung out, and then we ended up driving back to Albany to Lindon's house. Finally got to meet his wife and his kids, Reese and Declan, and her in-laws were there, and they had prepared a huge ribs and burgers.
Oh my God.
And we had a giant feast and met the in-laws, and everyone was so nice. They all wanted to hear the stories, so we told the stories over dinner and had a couple beers.
Everyone had a different perspective at the table too, probably.
Yeah, and it was so relaxing. And then all of a sudden it was like, we leave in the morning. We have 2 deer to cut up. because all the meat was quartered. And we're like, we got to take care of that. And we got to get in a freezer. So as soon as dinner was over, we relaxed a little bit. And then I was like, all right, Lindon set up a table in the garage. We got knives. Lindon cut off all the racks for us. Greg wanted to European mount his, which would have been a really cool idea. But then we were like, we don't have time to boil it. Transporting brains across state lines,
it's not gonna work,
CWD,
right.
probably not going to work. So we just skull capped
Fry
both of
on,
them.
not gonna work. Sorry.
So no, so we Lindon worked on that. Yeah, little bitty bone saw, and he just manhandled them. He took care of that for us.
Wow.
And then we just cut up the meat. Keegan was on the vacuum sealer, and as I told you before, he labeled all of our meat really creatively.
Yeah.
So we have some really fun names. So every time we pull a bag out, it'll be a fun reminder of something from the trip. But yeah, I didn't even touch on all of the things. That was just like the bullet
That's
points.
the bullet points.
The whole big theme of the trip was chicken, though, because Lindon has this thing with barbecue chicken. His mom makes barbecue chicken, and she sends it with the boys when they go hunt ever since like high school.
That sounds really good.
And
I'm so
all the
hungry right now.
guys
I haven't
just
eaten dinner
say,
yet.
we're not going to go hunting unless you bring your mom's barbecue chicken. That's the thing. It's the good luck charm. And Lindon explained a story how once they were having a really bad day. His buddy drove 7 hours to come hunting with him. They hadn't seen a deer, and they were standing on this big glassing knob, and they were saying, dude, we need that barbecue chicken. There's no luck. And Lindon just ripped apart this chicken wing, and he's eating it cold. And then he was like, you know what? Our luck's going to change. And he chucked the chicken wing off the freaking looking point, and there was a buck bedded right below them under the looking point, and he jumped up and ran when the chicken wing landed by him, and his buddy shot him at like 50 yards. So the whole thing was big chicken energy. I was like, dude, we need that big chicken energy. So his mom packed us 2 giant Ziploc bags full of barbecue chicken the day I shot mine. So we had the big chicken energy going, and it got the deer moving, shake things up.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, so it was a hell of a trip. All the guys that we met, everybody, Lindon's family.
Your student today had a drawing serendipitously of chicken eating chicken.
She's working on a painting. I gave them a themed painting. Their theme had to do something to do with flight. So she did a chicken wing, because chickens can't fly, on a plate with a chicken pecking at it. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, do you mind if I take a photo of this and send it to a buddy? He's just going to think this is really funny. So the big chicken energy followed me back from Oregon. So any of you guys having a rough season, get some barbecue chicken going. It seems to work real good.
You're going to get a big buck this year anyways.
Ask anybody from Oregon.
It's crazy. So what's your whitetail plan? You got some things shaking? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, things shaking are...
are you going back to Illinois?
My 2 buddies. Yeah, my 2 buddies are leaving Thursday. They're going to be hunting Friday down in Illinois.
Are you going?
I'm going on Friday night after school.
Oh my God, your poor wife.
I know.
We got a new sweatshirt coming up for her.
Yeah, hunting season survivor.
Hunting season survivor is dropping like tomorrow.
Yeah. So she's the 2 nights I'll be home this week.
What a saint of a woman. I gotta
she is.
Say.
She's an
Same
absolute
with Greg's wife, saints.
Absolute trooper. All of our wives.
To all the
cheers to the wives.
Dude, the wives and the moms are like. I was at Disney a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just watching these moms. I'm not like in a pervert. I'm just
mom watching. That's a new shirt.
But I'm like noticing these moms just like
solve all problems immediately.
They're angels among us. They're so good. There's like they have their own language of how they deal with the children and how they do things, and I'm just taking notice. And I'm like, what special people? My wife, your wife, Greg's wife, all these wives that just deal with our shit, be the kids. And they do it so damn eloquently. And not to say that like I'm not being a misogynist or like of no, like
you're giving a very high
like,
compliment.
Wow, they do it in a way that we just simply lack the utility to deal with in the way that they do. And our kids love their moms because they do it in such a way that makes the kids feel so heard and important. We talked about the mom effect before. And how like, well, when we have the kids, they don't do that shit because we don't care as much.
Because the kids know that
they know they're not going to get that from us because we just don't have that bone in our body. I don't know. So like hunting season survivor as a sweatshirt takes on a whole new fucking meaning because it should almost say hunting season
hero
thriver because they're not surviving, they're thriving. It's just very impressive. But what we put our wives through is not to be taken lightly.
I'll tell you this. Normally, there's 2 updates. Don't let me forget the second one.
You're having another kid, are you?
No. Cat. it's we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But I did the call, the mid trip call, which can go.
You're not sure what you're gonna get into.
Can go one of two ways, and this is in no way saying that if you get a call from your spouse and your spouse vents, that's absolutely what you
Normal.
should be doing, right?
Yep.
If you're having a freaking hell of a day, you should be able to vent that to your spouse. But I had the midday call, and my wife said, "We are having the best time. The kids are being so good. They're getting along so well." And I was just
So
like,
you're the problem.
I immediately was just like, thank goodness.
Whether or not
I'm
that's
so
true, thank you for
glad
telling me
that
that,
they're
yeah.
like, like they're happy and they're getting along, and like my wife's not stressed, and she was so not stressed that she got to go visit a friend who had happened to found two.
Let me share something. So for those that don't know, I was in the military, right? So like we're talking about all these fun things about like there's lots of different examples I want, and like the long range shooting and dry firing is you have a whole month of dry firing before you shoot a rifle in the military.
Probably a great
One
idea.
month of dry firing before. Can you just kind of comprehend? Sorry, it's actually 1 week in the Marine Corps of the 1 month of the shooting segment of shooting. Dry firing is a critically important aspect of learning how to shoot properly and getting comfortable. Additionally, when you're deployed or when you are in bat, you're never ever to report bad things to people back home. It's not fair to do. So it could be the worst time of your entire life. You could have seen the worst things in the world. You never relay that information back to people. It's going fine. Everything's good. Everyone's safe. We're happy. We're healthy. Everything's good. You don't worry people. The fact that your wife, like, intuitively had told you good things is militant in some aspect.
I think
That's very impressive. Good for her. Maybe that's the truth, but what could you do about it?
I think
if
that's
it were
what
bad?
like between that and all the barbecue chicken, I was set up for success that night. I was feeling so good, and like I felt like everyone around me was doing so much.
Yep.
My wife is taking care of the kids. She's killing it. They're having the best time. All these people have gathered around to show me how to shoot this rifle, teach me how to do long range
Yep.
shooting, volunteer their time to go glass. And I just felt like there's no way I can mess this up because these
you
people
probably
around
could distill it
me,
down to the Lord.
you
You know what
have
I mean?
sent me here, right?
No,
Keegan,
God.
I want to give a shout out to Keegan.
He's
Keegan
incredible.
Cadell. Dude, watching this guy carry
Wait, is that how you say his last name? I thought it was Kettle.
I think it's Cadell.
Fuck, I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
It's all right. I could be wrong.
I like kettle like a cooking kettle.
Watching this guy carry on, his pack is the heaviest out of everybody.
They're always
carrying around all these cameras, running in front of us up the mountain to get the shot of us climbing to make us look good. God,
and he films for Lee and Tiffany. He films for, so like typically it's like this beautiful oak flat. He's in a spot, stationary. Like I don't know for sure, but like
it's very
what
different.
a drastic difference of like.
And this is what the beer talk was, right? Like so, we're staying up too late drinking beers, and Keegan said, I really. Cheers to the wives. Cheers to everyone who made this happen. Cheers to you. But Keegan and I and Greg are talking, and Lindon, and he's saying I'm just having so much fun on this trip because the expectations are just different from my normal job. He's like, I just get to you guys. He's like, I'm making a film about you guys having fun.
He's not storyboarding this.
I'm making a story about you guys having fun while you're hunting. This isn't like just hunting. So he does have a film. He's going to have a film coming out. So anybody who's still listening to this, I am so excited to see what he did. He gave us leaked a couple photos today.
Yeah.
That were just, they were just so cool.
Aggressively.
So cool.
Crisp.
So no pressure, Keegan, but I cannot wait to see. I think the film is going to be really happy.
It's
really fun,
very special,
and it's going to show some cool stuff. Like we were jackasses and like our normal tomfoolery, but we were doing it in a beautiful place, which makes it so much more interesting.
I said 2 different times, I'm like, if you can fit Derek in a Kafaru pack,
we got that.
Somebody said, oh, these packs are huge. Like Derek could fit in one of them like a Hobbit. I was like, fucking do it.
Oh, I got on Greg's back. But the only problem was Greg had a hernia not terribly long ago. So the whole time I'm like, if I wreck Greg on day 1, I'm going to feel terrible.
Hey,
so
Eric, I broke Greg.
I did get into, Greg is a strong man. So I did get into
There's a lot of muscle under that dad.
He's very strong. I got into his pack. I think Keegan got it, but we're in the kitchen and I'm sitting in there But I immediately got out because I
Yes,
didn't want anything bad to happen.
but the fabric didn't rip or anything like that. Eh?
Those packs are freaking.
They're American made.
They're amazing.
It's crazy.
So,
like it's funny because it's an interesting like place to be as the okayest hunter and representing things of okayestness. Like, you think we just wear mossy oak and shop at Walmart and not give two fucks and drink like Busch Lights, which we do all of that.
oh, yeah, mostly what I do.
But also, man, it's good to be spoiled sometimes and have good shit for the. You have to have the right tools for the job. And that comes in where it needs to. Like, so we don't have friends in low places. What we do, we also have friends in some cool places.
Yeah, we do.
And to have Kafaru send us packs for this trip is just a sheer like, hey, if you can, cool. If you can't, like, cool, we'll figure it out.
We got it.
But if you can, like, how, like, what a great benefit. And clearly you put them to use.
We did. We wore them every day, and they were, what started out as, oh man, this pack's going to be way too big and too cumbersome. Turned very quickly.
Which is what I heard initially.
Turns into really quickly. Holy crap! I don't know what we would have done without this.
Yeah.
So it worked out perfect, and all the Riton stuff got used thoroughly. I mean, everything was good. Nozzler performed. Everything was great. Like,
cool.
It was all good. We had a lot of fun. I had something really profound and interesting that I wanted to say, but I did have one thing that like was weighing on me about the buck I killed, and I kind of felt like I might have let everyone down because everyone did come across the
You're
canyon.
gonna see something on the screen in 2 seconds. It's gonna make you chuckle here.
No, Keegan, yeah, it's gonna be freaking amazing. Quote me, quote right now. It's gonna be the best film of okayest hunters in Oregon hunting small blacktail that's ever been produced.
But so, like my daughter Logan says, find the fun.
Oh yeah,
Keegan, just find the fun in the content, and
it's gonna be tough.
That's the narrative right there.
It's gonna be tough. Oh yeah.
All right, sorry. So I didn't hear what you said because I was too busy focusing on that.
No,
something profound. What was the profound thing?
I can't remember.
Fuck, did I ruin it?
No, it wasn't that profound.
Damn
By
it,
profound,
Keegan.
I just meant like I remembered it, but it was not profound.
Yeah, no saddles used, no muck boots, like it
No.
because I didn't do the other.
Greg bought new boots first day we were there. We went to right after Nozzler.
I was wondering, I was like, are you guys going to use the Alpha Pursuits because that's such a new thing? The Alpha Pursuits, the muck boots that aren't like just traditional.
I wore those down in Illinois last time I went, but those no, like Keegan, Dylan, and I slid down a shale mountain.
Shale. That's like the stuff that.
We were walking so freaking quiet, and I know Keegan is probably gonna laugh at this because Dylan and I are trying to be so quiet, and Keegan's going like, "Why in the hell are they trying to keep three guys quiet while we're walking down a shale mountain?" I mean, it was steep, and we slid down that sucker.
Oh,
and we made a lot of noise. Like rocks are falling like 400 feet. So yeah, I don't know if the muck boots would have been good there. We all wore like stiffer hiking boots.
Yeah.
I think Keegan actually had on the lacrosse Almas. Is that what it's called?
I don't know. I know we also have the Ursas.
Ursas. Because he wore those.
Okay.
I did not. I had like some higher
the more
ones that I had. Yeah.
Well, I was wearing the Ursas. Or not the Ursas. Well, I wore those the lacrosse Ursas last year a bit. But the muck Alpha Pursuits are mucks like what's the word? Fourier into? What's the word I'm looking for here?
I kind of know what you're talking about, but I also
they're muck is known for like waders and like
rubber boots,
neoprene boots. They have muckskin boots now that are like ankle supported, laced up boots.
I actually love them,
and they're really lightweight, and they're pretty freaking comfortable, and they're waterproof, and they're camouflage, and they're really great boots. So I was like, I wasn't sure if those would make their way out to that type of terrain or not. Nonetheless, they're making their way here.
Oh, here they're perfect.
Like, they're incredible.
Mountain terrain, I would say ankle boots are better.
Yeah.
Something with some support.
But those Ursas are stiff. I remember that. Like they're stiff where it was like it hurt my ankles in certain spots.
To be honest, I didn't wear those a ton.
Probably true for most boots that probably need to be broken in. I don't know. I haven't hunted out west, so I'm not a candidate to talk about it.
Greg broke his. We went to that shop after Nosler. He bought a pair of Crispies.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like the stiff ones. They had like some thinner ones or some more flexible ones. Didn't like those. He got like a mid-grade one.
Yeah.
Really liked them. He wore them that day in the car, and then he broke them in the next day with his 3-mile hike down. Shot the buck, loaded up, 3-mile hike back up.
Most boots though, new. I used to work jobs that were like you're putting miles on boots in factories. I was an order picker for a beer company. I was stacking kegs and stacking cases of beer, and you put on miles and miles and miles of like warehouse boots. Anytime I had to get a new pair, because they break down, a new pair of boots, and they always had to be steel toe. Like you get freaking blisters.
Oh yeah,
it's just inevitable, man. I had blisters that were so freaking large, and there's just no good way to deal with it. So I just think new boots, go break them in before you go hunt, because you don't want to end up with blisters on a hunt. It's just inevitable. Otherwise, you're just asking for it. I don't know a good way to deal with that. In the Marine Corps, same thing. You'd be hiking. It's called a hump in the Marines. It's different, but like you'd be humping with your boots, and
you would.
Inevitably, guys would get blisters.
Always humping with your boots.
Like long humps with huge packs, just in your rifles. And back when I was in, it was the M16. It wasn't the stuff that the guys have nowadays. Yeah, it's different, but nonetheless. Yeah.
Our buddy Matt Strime is heading out to Montana.
Oh yeah.
Thursday.
Everyone's doing shit right now. This is the time of year where shit's happening.
It's almost rutcation time.
I told Holly when we get back from our trip, I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I have not packed a single thing at 7:30 p.m. right now on Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm leaving to go to Seattle for a wedding for my wife's brother. I haven't packed anything. And when I get back from that trip, I'm like, all bets off. I'm hunting as much as I possibly can. I've been out twice.
You did a good job staying out of the woods.
The least amount of hunting I've done my entire life.
You did a good job. You put in your time. October's always busy for you. Anniversary, birthdays.
September birthdays.
The Clark
October,
kids. In September. Your wife.
Ready to get it. I'm going to kill something.
Well, don't worry. It's only the best time of the year to kill something.
But I also was like, you know what? Every buck I've ever killed. Here they are. November 4th, November 12th.
There you go.
So like, look, when putting the woods from November 4th, November 12th, then I'll be happy.
You're deadly.
So, and anything I don't hit, it's my own fault. But good stories, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for sending us out there. Greg and I had an absolute blast. I'm a little sad he wasn't here tonight to tell his side of the story.
We'd be here for another hour longer.
Yeah, but we had so much fun. And we can't thank Lindon and his family and all of his friends enough for all the hospitality, and just
100%.
They were fantastic.
Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in to Story Time.
Story Time with Derek and Eric.
Film to come. There's lots coming down the pike from OKS Hunter. Stay tuned. Stay frosty. Follow along. Watch. Listen. Tune in. Yada yada yada.
The film will be the best film you've ever seen in your whole life.
That's
guaranteed.
Right. That's right, Keegan.
That's right, Keegan. You heard it here. Guaranteed to be the best.
See you, everybody. You have a good one.